Hey everybody, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you how to do an OEM backup camera upgrade on a third generation Prius. Now this is a Facelift Prius V. That means it's from 2015 to 2017. And amongst other things, it got a much upgraded rear view camera that is much clearer and has nice guidelines similar to what the fourth generation standard Prius would have. However, I got rear-ended, and in the process of getting all the new parts and putting it back together, the new tailgate is from a pre-facelift Prius V that's 2012 to 2014. And that shares the backup camera of the rest of the standard third generation Prius, which is, it's grainy, it's not as clear, it doesn't have those guidelines. And so I knew immediately I wanted to upgrade this. And we're not talking about how to upgrade to an aftermarket kit for an aftermarket radio. We're not talking about how to add a backup camera. We're talking about an upgrade with OEM parts. And I'm going to show you right now. Let's get into it. So here are the tools you're going to need, and before you freak out, you don't have to take your interior paneling off your tailgate. I'm just going to show you in case you wanted to. This middle part at the top comes off first, then these side pieces, and then the main body. It's all just plastic push pins. Now the reason you might want to do this is you'll get a little bit better working room than just removing the access doors. However, I don't think it's necessary unless you have Sasquatch hands that are this big, because this is where the camera goes. You're going to have to push these two little guys out, and then there's 4 bolts here, 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 and here that hold this guy on, which there are those 4, and then the rest of it is just little push pins as well. So I'm going to do all my work with the paneling still on, but if you wanted to take it off, it's not too hard. So you take the little doors off of here, use a flathead to do that. Then you're going to need a deep 10 mil. That's going to get these off of here. Now, this is the sucky part about how they did it. This is the one that I took out of here, and you might be wondering, well, how did he get it out without taking that thing off? Technically, you can take this out. There's little screws on the back. If you use a flexible, and this is a number 1, by the way, number 1 Phillips. If you use a flexible one of these, you can go up in there. It's going to be hard to show with one hand, and you can get those 2 tiny little screws out, which are these little guys right here. However, Toyota, why'd you do this? The camera on the back is actually different. I don't know if you can tell. I went ahead and moved the light so you could get a better view, but hopefully you can see there that these 2 pins are aligned, whereas that pin and that pin are not. So this is more of a square pattern, and this is more of a rectangle pattern. So you're going to have to either cut and solder or depin and repin the connectors to get this camera to work, which I will show you. Lastly, you're going to need a little pair of pliers, as well as either a number 3 Phillips or a 10 mil, and that's how you're going to get this little guy off, which the camera will be screwed into with those little screws that I was talking about. You don't need to take those off. It doesn't do any good because, as I said, unfortunately you can't directly swap these in and out of that housing anyway, so don't even do that. So I undid the 4 screws that are behind here, and now I'm going to take this off. You're just going to work your hands underneath and pull. It's not going to sound great. It's going to sound like it's breaking it, but it isn't. It's just how it works. And then there is this, which it's hard to see, but I'm pulling the connector out. This guy right here, which is for the trunk release, but you just undo the connector. So you'll take these 2 little screws out, and then you're going to go in from the underside, and you're going to push those plastic clips out. They have little tabs on each side, so you're going to have to take a pliers, push in on each of these, and then push them out. This style of pliers here actually ended up being a little bit easier to use. So I grabbed it kind of by the sides here, right near the top, and then pushed up. This one right here, you can see you push it through. And then here is that thing right here. Grab that, and then I took the other side out already. It is held in with just a little bit of foam adhesive, but if you peel it back real gently, it'll come off without damaging it. And there you go. So here you can see that not only is the spacing different, but the offset is different as well. So you just can't interchange the camera into these. You got to get the right one. You also cannot get a 4th gen Prius camera assembly because the camera might be the same, but this guy here is different. So if you're doing it on a 3rd gen Prius, you need the camera out of a Facelift 2015 to 2017 Prius V, and it needs to include the backer here and then you also need the wiring harness here so you can swap it. Here's a diagram of the wiring for those two connectors. There's the old connector, the new connector. You're going to need a couple of pins. One of them you're going to fold in on itself like that, and then that's going to get these out. And the other one is just a standard pin. You don't have to do anything to it. It's going to get the new connector out. And then you're going to need a real small flathead screwdriver for both of these for the retention clip. So here's how you're going to depin this connector. You could also cut and solder it, but this is really not hard. You're going to take your little flathead, you're going to push it under the white, and you're going to pull it till it moves up. Then you're going to take your custom little pin, you're going to put it into the slots, not where the pins go, but the little rectangular slots that are offset. Then you're going to push it in and pull. Hopefully you can see how that went. I'm going to do the next one. Push it in and pull. Let's see, we'll get this one next. And the last one right there. So here's that old busted tailgate, and this is the connector that we're going to be dealing with right here. There's where that camera came from. So here's how we do this connector here. It's going to be a little bit trickier to show. You're going to pull up there on those, and then you're going to take the pin. There's going to be these little holes above where the connectors are. Then you're going to push that in there, and then grab the wire and pull back on it. Let me do the next one here. And there are the 4 of those. When you're putting the pins back into the new connector, make sure that the little bumps line up with the retention clip here, as well as the holes where you put those pins into. So it'll be kind of like that. As far as this diagram also, I showed you it last time, but make sure that your connector is facing this way, so that you're pushing the pins down into it in this orientation, not this way. If you've done it correctly, this is how the connector should end up looking. We're wrapping this project up, and I did want to do a quick comparison between these pieces of plastic here. I'll put a photo on the screen, but this cutout here is just a little bit different between the pre-facelift one that came with this tailgate, as well as the facelift one that goes with this camera. However, the good news is they both work. They both touch the camera just a little bit at the top here, so that's normal. And if you have a standard Prius, not a Prius V, then I'm thinking you're not going to have any issues either. Finally, one part that you can just use whichever one you already have and not worry about it so much, because there was so much work getting the right camera. Well, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed. It did end up being a lot more work than I was planning on. And so, hey, I appreciate that like, comment, subscribe, because that's going to help support me doing all these miserable things that take 50 times longer than they're supposed to. No, I'm just kidding. But it does feel that way sometimes. It makes a guy want a classic car that doesn't have 50 million steps. But anyways, see you next time. I appreciate all your support. Thank you.